There he is. He's ready to wave to you.
At this time, I'd like to call the Monday, September 10th Planning Commission meeting to order. That brings us to the first item on the agenda, which is roll call. Altaf.
Here.
Charnel.
Here.
Daniels. Emma.
Here.
Derek Lundell.
Here.
Glenn Lundell.
Here.
And Pid here. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
I've got a motion by Derek Lundell and a second by Mr. Hema. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to the approval of the minutes from the August 13th, 2018 Planning Commission meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion by Ms. Charnel and a second by Mr. Althoff. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Please approach the microphone and before speaking, give your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is anyone here for something other than the conditional use permit and the variance? Hearing none, we'll move on to our public hearing for the conditional use permit for Terwilliger. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay. I will give a brief background. Joseph Terwilliger has applied for a conditional use permit to construct an accessory structure that will exceed the maximum height requirements in the residential zone. The maximum height in a residential zone is 16 feet. His proposed garage would be 24 feet. These kind of conditional use permits have been approved in the past by the Planning Commission, including 2 permits in the last 8 years on this block alone for 20 and 23 feet. Other permits have been approved around the city in my tenure here, which has been just over a year. So staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit for added height for a garage for extra storage.
Anyone from the public have any input? Hearing none, at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing for the conditional use permit for Terwilliger. That brings us to discussion item. Resolution 2018-8, conditional use permit, Terwilliger.
I will say that I met with a couple of the neighbors that were a little concerned, but once they saw the plans, they didn't have a problem with it, so.
Is this going to be a heated building? Just forced air or something like that, or? You know, if you have more storage, you'll fill it up.
We got storage in the basement of the house, but limestone.
How close is that building going to be to your house? Is that within our? They have.
That is the building code.
What's
It's
our minimum on it? I can't remember.
the state building code says 10 feet, but I know the Goodhue County building official does make exceptions if you do an extra firewall, things
So you
like
won't be
that.
connecting in any way. Not a door that goes directly from the building. Because if you did that, you'd have to change your doors and stuff, wouldn't you? Huh? Does that give you enough, I'm sorry, does that give you enough space to park your car outside the garage as well? I'm sorry.
That's why it's
What's that?
The bare minimum, that's why it's as close to the house as it is. Back up anymore, I wouldn't have enough.
So you'll be able to park it up to the garage without being in the way of the plow? Okay. That's all the questions I had. You along good with your neighbors?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for Terwilliger.
I'll second it.
I've got a motion by myself and a second by
Glenn.
Glenn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to our second public hearing of the night, which is Yelming. Did I pronounce that right? Yelming, okay. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for the variance for Yelming.
Okay. And just a quick overview for this one. Chad and Stephanie Yelming are looking to add an addition to the north side of their home. The addition would be no closer than that. It would be about 25 feet from the rear property line, which requires a 5-foot variance. The addition is going to be where their deck is currently located, so there would be no additional impervious surface or anything added. And the rear of the property it's quite shallow because it's on a cul-de-sac, so it's bumping into their usable area and everything. To the rear is County Highway 17 or Washington Street, however you identify it. And I did have one neighbor come in today and wrote a letter of support in favor of the variance request. So that is what I have for that one.
Is that a fence? Can't remember.
Yes.
Yes.
Thought so.
All right, hearing nothing from the public, I'd like to close the public hearing for the variance on Yelming. That brings us to discussion item resolution 2018-9, variance Yelming.
There it is.
Unless there's some discussion, I'll make a motion to pass resolution 2018-9.
Second.
I've got a motion by Mr. Altoff and a second by Ms. Charnel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to Planning Commission member comments. Anybody got anything?
Nothing for me.
Nothing tonight.
You got comments, Jim? Is that where you're at?
Yep, right here.
So I hear rumors about a dog park.
Rumors, yes. I could have our council member on the park board come up and talk about that, Ken. There is going to be a dog park down by the wastewater treatment plant. I approved the fence permit for it.
Where did you
That's-
say it was going to be?
Down
Ken?
to the east of the sanitation plant
Right.
and west of the that first field at Swenson, Archie Swenson.
And so I heard this just the other day. Mr. Evinrude and I were talking about that. I understand he's going to coming in to give some advice.
Okay.
He was involved in his,
Oh,
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a moment before.
Yeah. So is that going to have lights and electrical, or what are you going to put down there?
We're not going to more lighting or electrical. It's going to have the same hours as any of the city parks. So when it gets dusk, then it closes.
Have you had a lot of interest in it?
Well, interest started about a year or two before I came on the council, and I was the lucky one to get to bring it to fruition.
What kind of timeline are you looking at?
Well, we're hoping to get it open this fall. It all depends on when the fencing contractor can come in and get the fence up. When we talked last time, when I talked last time to Mike Altoff, we were looking at about 9 weeks out, depending on the weather. Keep having nicer weather, it may get bumped up sooner.
Cool. Well, I just happened to hear about it, and I was curious about it, so.
And we do have proposed rules for the dog park also.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But those are going to get reviewed in the police commission when we talk about a few other things, so.
Good. Yeah, that's great.
Is the fence going to be locked every night, do you know, or no?
No,
Okay.
no.
Right now,
It'll be a double gate entry so that there's a transition spot so dog is less likely to get loose and go one way or the other.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Never would have thought of that. What was, so it was like, so the dogs can get used to what's in there before, or
It's so that when you open the gate, you don't have a dog.
the
run
other
out.
dogs don't come through?
Yeah,
Of course.
and they get excited around other dogs, so.
Yeah, they'll come at it, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's great. So you have water there, or what are you gonna do?
No,
People have to bring their own water and
they'll have to bring their own water, their own food.
trash.
We don't want water left there because that's how disease gets transmitted from dog to dog. And the same reason for doing that with food also.
Will that have to be mowed on a regular basis as
Yes.
well? So you'll have to get access in that way.
We have a second gate that'll be large enough to let the mowers come through.
Would they use it in the winter at all, you think?
At other counties, yeah, it does
You
get
got a
used.
lot of dogs
Uh,
that like the snow, yeah. Huh, yeah, interesting.
We
Well, I
don't,
just
we don't
happened to
have
hear
the
about
deep pockets of Inver Grove Heights, where they're going to spend, I think it's $1.2 million for a dog park.
Like a doggy Disneyland, huh?
I'm sitting there, when I heard about that, I'm like, what in the world are they planning for a dog park?
That's a lot of grass for them to run around in.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Well, I've only been on the
The other
council
thing I
for,
was curious about was, have we heard from Goodhue County about when they're gonna connect up over there by St. Ansgar's to the hospital?
No, I haven't heard anything on that recently.
I understood they had funds in place for it, but sure seems to be taking a long time for them to
Last
together.
last I had heard there were like environmental issues or something with where the road would
Lots
go.
of different things.
Yeah.
I've heard environmental issues about bats. I've heard interesting things about, buying property.
And yeah, I think it was actually Ken who was telling me about that. So maybe he can answer.
Yeah,
The bats have been the biggest problem with the white nose syndrome.
like those bats, yeah.
Yeah, with the bats. That leaves only a small segment of time at which they can go in to disturb an area where bats roost.
Yeah. So they haven't put a timeline on that either then, have they? Why? Because they don't understand the bats or what? Just curious.
I'm not fully sure why it's going so slow, but
I've been waiting a long time for this.
yeah. You and a lot of others.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering what's holding them up.
It's gonna get your trucks to bypass your corner.
A what?
The trucks.
A what?
Trucks.
The semis.
A property owner?
You.
You.
Trust.
Trucks.
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 You're
that
just
go
trying to
around
get
the
trucks
corner.
away
can
from
go-
you.
Trucks can take the,
Oh, I didn't say one word about it. I didn't say one thing about the state highway department. But you don't want to go there with me. Okay, well, I was just curious what the county was doing because I thought they had all the funding in place.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure what the
Yeah, we
holdup
should-
is with it. I haven't talked to Greg Isaacson for a while on that, so.
Yeah. Okay. All I had for questions today.
well, I was gonna mention about the dog park. I've only been on the council a year and a half, but this has been on the table for a long time. And I'm just glad that it's come to tradition now that we get it done. A lot of pet owners want a dog park.
Those dogs will all have to be licensed too.
Yep.
I think
There
so.
you go.
So we're not raising our licensing fees, are we? Okay.
19 dogs that have been, or 25 dogs.
So they can't use that facility unless they're registered dogs with us.
Yep.
I think that's good to know. They can probably have visitor dogs once in a while or something like that. Interesting.
Might generate a little more money for the city because they're gonna have to be a registered dog to be there.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else?
I'll be quiet now.
Hearing none, that brings us to number 9, which is adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
We got a motion by Glenn Dundell and a second by Mr. Hema. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the Monday, September 10th, 2018 Planning Commission meeting.